Hello and welcome to this week's negotiation nugget. The topic this week that I'm talking about is what's in it for me. Now, when it comes to negotiation, when we think about it from a business perspective, often what we're thinking about is very much about getting the desired result from our negotiation whilst maintaining the relationship we have with the other party. The focus is very much on the outcome that we are looking to achieve and the journey in how we achieve that outcome being positive and not impacting the relationships and the stakeholder engagement that we have throughout that process. Now, what I want to turn the lens on in this week's 10-15 minute negotiation nugget is the negotiator themselves. What's in it for them? If you're the person that's entering into the negotiation and you have effectively been trained in your negotiation skills and have developed intelligence in negotiation, how are you benefiting personally from this negotiation experience that you have and the skills that you've learned? So I'm going to talk through five S's, and they are self-efficacy, stronger relationships, self-regulation, smarter decisions, and secret language. And I'm just going to go through each of them in a small amount of detail each so that you can appreciate what it is personally that you could get out of training to be a negotiation expert in your own right. So the first one is around self-efficacy. Now, what does that mean? Self-efficacy is really about having a belief in your ability to negotiate and get the outcome that you desire. Now, most people that I work with when it comes to negotiation training, or whether it be executive coaching, come with a personal challenge around confidence to say and do the right thing. Now, when it comes to self-efficacy, having been through negotiation training as a delegate many years ago in 2007, I know exactly how it feels to walk into a room and to be amongst your peer group in an environment where you're going to be trained, videoed, and debriefed on your negotiation skills and capability. In those moments, I remember feeling incredibly uncomfortable at the thought of my fellow peers and people I worked with at a senior level, seeing my skills or lack thereof when it came to negotiation. For me personally, at the time I worked in finance and I was in a negotiation training program with my sales counterparts, those that I would internally negotiate with every single day to construct deals that could be taken to retailers to drive long-term arrangements for delivery and service of our products and goods. Now, in that environment, having been through the process of negotiation training as a delegate myself, and now on the opposite side in terms of teaching, what I learned about self-efficacy is the discipline that you learn through the process of understanding how to negotiate, and then being able to recognize that understanding those principles, understanding from a lens of not tactical, how are you in the room, but how are you effectively planning, strategically thinking, and then coordinating your outcomes through the steps that you take, builds a level of confidence. And when you start to go through and experience and see the shift in what you're learning translating into the outcomes that you want the other party to do, yet the other party believing that they've made their own choices to present that proposal or that accept that decision, and you've actually driven that outcome because of the way you strategically have maneuvered the conversation or the dialogue that you have, becomes incredibly powerful. And when you've got that self-efficacy, the knock-on effect on self-esteem and confidence is great. So when I say to anyone that's going and embarking on a negotiation training journey, is to not just think about the desired outcome that you want for the business, not to just focus on How do you sustain the relationship with the other party? But think about the strength that you're building in your own character because you are demonstrating a discipline, an understanding of principles that are ultimately going to build skills that improve your ability to negotiate yourself out of or into any situation that you want to be party to. The second one that I want to talk about is stronger relationships. Now, from a negotiation environment, if the end outcome is to get the outcome and also get the relationships to remain intact, it really requires a level of understanding about what is the other party needing, going into their deeper interests rather than their positions. Personally, for me, I remember being in my 20s at the time when I was first trained in negotiation, not really thinking about the other party's needs and interests to a greater extent. My main focus was very much on what do I need, how am I going to get there, and what maneuvers do I need to make to ensure the other party follows the path that I want in terms of outcome. Now, when we're thinking about negotiation, and especially in the space of value creation, we all know the world is a very small place, even more so now with technology. Everyone's connected. There is probably even less than 6 degrees of separation now between us and anyone we're dealing with. And it means that your reputation can often precede you, even if someone's not met you before. So understanding how your negotiation style and the way of approaching deals can evolve over time and therefore influence the perception of someone's experience with you before you've even met them can be incredibly powerful. Now, if you're creating an environment where you are known for value creation, where you are known for looking for win-win solutions, where you are known for getting creative in your thinking, all of these disciplines that are learned through a negotiation training process can absolutely influence and strengthen your relationships, not only internally, because people make the mistake of assuming just because you work in the same business that everyone's going to be pulling in the same direction, which, as we know, is not very clear at all at times. And what we need to make sure is the understanding that if we are focusing on our relationships with people and leveraging skills that we are learning in negotiation from a perspective of demonstrating listening, demonstrating curiosity through questions, demonstrating an opportunity to get to know someone and draw out information from them that really helps them feel seen, heard, and understood and feel valued, that actually it strengthens relationships. And the focus on the value creation being a greater part means that the thinking is often long-term rather than short-term. So there's a certain benefit that you get from taking a negotiation lens when it comes to relationships, because you're not rushing just straight to the outcome. And what's in it for you is stronger relationships for the long term, not just professionally, but personally too. And that brings me on to my third point, which is around self-regulation. In a negotiation environment, emotions can get in the way of getting the best outcome. I've seen all too often people blow up from an emotional perspective, and the desire to win and the desire to get one over on someone can drive behavior that is counterproductive to getting a win-win value creative solution. Now, in the practice of negotiation, in the practice of the discipline and the principles involved in creating value created deals, accretive deals, what you're focused on is how can you maintain a sense of composure and calm in the way you negotiate. You're separating what you might be feeling on the inside, or your feelings and the discomfort that you might be feeling, from how you're actually showing up on the outside. Are you remaining calm? Are you even keeled in your composure? Are you maintaining a sense of ease, even if what you're feeling internally is discomfort? Now, when you can master the self-regulation, the emotional regulation management in a difficult scenario, the power, again, not only onto your relationships is amplified, but also in your leadership. And most people don't realize that negotiation training actually significantly helps a leader elevate their impact when it comes to their team. Why? Because psychological safety is created when people know what they can expect from you, when you've got consistency in the way you show up from an emotional perspective. Now, if you're someone who's hot-headed or volatile in your emotions and your team have to feel like they're walking on eggshells around you, never knowing what they're going to get depending on what hot button they press, it can be a very uncomfortable environment for your team to operate in. And as a leader, having a team that doesn't feel psychologically safe undermines your ability to get the results that you're seeking to get. Negotiation application in the workplace, in your day-to-day interactions, can actually be very powerful when you're constantly in your head that this is a negotiation, that I'm influencing the other party through the way I'm showing up, whether I remain calm or whether I'm intentional with the emotion I share. You're in charge, you're getting to control the narrative and you're getting to control the outcome. So regulation becomes incredibly powerful and a personal superpower. Moving on to 4, smarter decisions. Goes without saying, what's in it for you? The disciplines of negotiation mean that you plan more effectively, you're more strategic in your moves because you start to be able to see the bigger picture. Where are you headed? You're at point A, you're trying to get to point B, and you've determined the number of different pathways you can take to get to that outcome. Not only have you determined the outcome that you want, you've determined the alternatives that are available to you or not available to you. And in understanding what your best alternatives or worst alternatives are, you can then sequence back exactly the way you're going to unfold that negotiation based on the steps that need to be taken to get to certain yeses in certain agreements before you can get to the bigger outcome. Now, when it comes to everyday decision making, the principles still apply. Are you thinking strategically? Are you clear about the avenues from A to B? Do you know what options are available? Do you know what information you know or don't know? And therefore, how do you concisely consolidate that thinking into a clear decision to determine the next action? So whenever I think of negotiation principles applying in everyday life and decision making, I can see very clearly how the choices I'm making are going to have a knock-on effect in other areas because I'm looking at them through the lens of a negotiation. What would happen if I did this? What would happen if they responded with this? Because I'm not just thinking about my moves, but I'm thinking about how someone else might respond, and therefore how can I be better prepared to respond with a second proposal or a decision that I need to make to be able to move the dialogue forward. So decision making becomes incredibly powerful, and it becomes a super skill that you get access to having been through training. The final one, and it's one of my favorites, is a secret language. What's in it for you when you go through negotiation training is the ability to hear and see things that were always there right in front of you that you never, ever, ever knew what existed before. Knew existed before. And by that I mean you hear language from someone, and I'll give you an example in a normal everyday context. When we hear someone say "with the greatest of respect," what do you expect to follow? You expect usually to follow with an insult, or I'm going to give you a hard truth, and I'm caveating it with this language of "with the greatest of respect" before I say what I need to say. Now, when it comes to negotiation training, imagine if you had the secret language of knowing when someone said a particular word or a particular phrase, that they were movable, that they were able to move further on a position, that they had more to give, or that they were at their limit. And actually there was a greater risk here if you kept pushing, because you had language that was very clearly articulated that would tell you certain words meant certain things. Now, often we can take a very literal approach to language and communication and assume what someone's saying is what they mean. And we all know that's not, well, very rarely is true, and certainly often not in a negotiation environment. And when you start to know the secret language of what someone actually means by what they say and through what they're doing and the actions they're taking, it opens up a whole new world of opportunity. not only in your relationships professionally, but personally. You know, I hear things when my friends speak and when family speak, and I hear certain phrases and I think, oh, there's something I need to dive into here, because there's some demonstration of discomfort that they don't know that's what they've shared through their language. But having been through a negotiation training environment, I'm highly heightened to language and what it means. So if you want to amplify your communication skills, if you want to really get into understanding the secret language of speaking, listening, understanding, and communication from a body language perspective that you've never really allowed yourself to be open to before, there is huge power in enjoying and taking the journey of negotiation training. Now, I'm not here to sell you anything, merely here to open your eyes to say, right, focus on how not only can the business benefit from your negotiation training in terms of outcomes and relationships, but you personally, so that you can be a super negotiator in every aspect of your life. So I hope that's been helpful. The 5 what's in it for you is very much self-efficacy, stronger relationships, self-regulation, smarter decisions, and enjoying a secret language that only a select few get to enjoy and appreciate. Thanks very much for listening. Speak to you soon.